This is the first time I'd had it like an injury that like turned into another injury. I'd never had it like a cycle happen. Before it would be something and then I'd be healthy. And then it, 2 years later, something else. So this was the first time that it like strung together. And I think at first I was embarrassed until I realized, hey, I'm not the only first person to have an injury cycle. Mm-hmm. There are people who can learn from this. So I need to be a student of the sport currently in my situation and figure out how do I help someone else out of this.
Welcome to the Injured Athletes Club podcast, the show that helps athletes cope with sports injuries and bounce back stronger. I'm mental skills coach Carrie Jackson. We're sorry you're here, but we're glad you're with us.
And I'm journalist Cindy Kuzma. This week, our guest is elite runner and coach Becki Spellman. But before we get to that, we want to share another key resource with you.
So as you hear Becki share her story on today's episode, you're going to hear about an amazing tool that she has that has been helpful in her recovery. So the resource we want to share with you is over at buymeacoffee.com/rebound. When you head over to buymeacoffee.com/rebound, you can get access to all kinds of resources. But the one we want to highlight today is our free recording of the Injured Athletes Club Recovery Summit, the Athletes Toolkit. The reason I think this is so important to check out is that sometimes there's a few reasons. One is that there's so many different resources and tools out there that we just don't know what might help, right? Is this a tool that would be helpful and what's it all about? So we got an incredible different companies to come on and share a few different products that they have to help keep athletes healthy and as well as help them with their recovery. I think the other reason it's important is sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? We don't know all the resources and tools that are out there. So if you go over to buymeacoffee.com/rebound and check out the extras and head over to the recording of the Injured Athletes Club Recovery Summit, the Athletes Toolkit, it's free to watch the webinar. And if you check it out and you feel like one of those products might help, each one of them also offered an exclusive discount for our Injured Athletes Club listeners. So definitely head over there and check it out.
Right. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes too. And one of the companies, again, this is the company that Becki mentions today, Lever Movement. They are one of the companies that was a part of that summit. And they are also our exclusive sponsor for this season of the Injured Athletes Club. So we're so grateful to them for being a part of this and bringing Becki and every guest we had this season to your ears. With that, let's get on to learning more about Becki. She is an elite runner. She's qualified for the Olympic marathon trials 4 times. She's a coach, a mom, a 2-time winner of the Akron Marathon, and most recently won the Cap City Half Marathon in Columbus, Ohio, which we'll talk a little bit about on the show. And as we mentioned, she has a longstanding relationship with Lever Movement, and she has used that tool both when she is injured and when she is healthy. So I know listeners are going to want to really hear what she has to say about that. There was so much that was amazing about this conversation with Becki. But, I mentioned she qualified for 4 different Olympic marathon trials, and those races are 4 years apart. So that should tell you that she's been doing what she does at a high level for a really long time. And I was really struck by how she has shifted her sort of mindset about injury in that time, coming to realize that it is actually just a part of pushing yourself in the sport. It is something that you're going to encounter if you want to do your best, especially over that long of a time. And I really appreciate how she shared her evolution in that regard, and also how she shares that with the athletes that she coaches. And, that moment there, you'll hear a moment in there that kind of helped her realize that, and a realization that took her to that level that I think is going to be really powerful for people to hear.
Yeah, I really appreciated her sharing how one of the things that she's gotten from this whole injury experience is learning how to roll with the punches. Mm-hmm. And I really loved hearing how her experiences with injury and going through these different like comebacks and coming back into sport and training again, post-surgery, how it's impacted her as a coach. And I, personally really appreciate it, because this is something I talk about with my athletes all the time. Like there's a very big difference between understanding your body and in how to take responsibility and how to understand what's happening in your body and what might have been in play when you got injured, and that there's a difference between sort of ownership over like, okay, now what have I learned and what can I do different? That is different than blaming yourself for getting injured. And she had some experiences with that. And I just loved that, she felt empowered to say, no, I don't need to blame myself for this. This is part of the sport and this sometimes happens. Mm-hmm. And that one of the things that changed for her as a coach is that when she's working with an athlete, she really takes time to figure out the root cause of an injury and how critical that is. Because as athletes, oftentimes we're just treating the symptoms because we so desperately want to get back out there. But if you want to get out of the injury cycle, you really got to figure out like, what is the root cause? And I appreciated that part of the conversation.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And there's so much that she shares about that, about her Achilles injuries, about postpartum running and her comeback from that. And so something for many different types of athletes in this interview. So we are so grateful to Becki Spellman for coming on the show. And here is our interview. Becki, welcome. And thank you so much for joining us on the Injured Athletes Club.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I don't know if this is the podcast I was hoping to be on, but I'll take it.
Well, our tagline, we always say, is we're sorry you're here, but we're glad you're with us. So
I'm glad to be with you too.
Yeah. Inherent in that is that injury can be a roller coaster, right? With lots of ups and downs along the way. And we know you've had some ups lately, like we mentioned in the intro, you won the Cap City Half Marathon a couple of weeks ago, but I also know you have been on this ride before. So Becki, what we really want to know is, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm healthy right now. So that's always a good thing. I've had a rough couple of years going to say that, I guess. Mm-hmm. In order to be able to say that, it was a journey for sure. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing great right now. I'm training actively. So yeah, I've learned over the years to be pretty happy and celebratory when that's going.
Right. I think that is like an interesting gift that sometimes my injured athletes get from the process, is the the recognition of what we took for granted. Yes. When, before, and being able to stay in that feeling of gratitude when things are going well, instead of feeling like, what's the shoe going to drop? Right, right. This feels good.
Sometimes it's hard to do, but
yes.
Especially if you've had especially if you're in an injury cycle, like it can be really hard to not worry that we're just doing it again. But absolutely, if you can celebrate along the way, it certainly helps the process.
Well, and that kind of ties into one of the first questions I wanted to ask you too. A lot of times we ask our guests how injuries are viewed in their sport. And actually, to be honest, we both have had a lot of runners on, and we have a ton of runners in our audience. So I think runners are pretty universal in their fear and dislike of injuries. So we probably don't have to talk about that too much. But I am curious, because you have had such a long running career, a long and successful running career, and also several experiences with injuries and setbacks. How would you say that your own mindset and attitudes about injury have shifted through the years? And whether that's a difference in how they affect you at first, or kind of a difference in how your approach to coping?
Yeah. So, when I first would get the first few injuries I had were relatively small, but nonetheless, my knee-jerk reaction was like, what did I do wrong? I had to have done something wrong. I had no idea that 60 to 80% of competitive runners are injured annually. I had no idea that number existed. All I knew was, by and large, my coaches would be like, well, you ran this too hard. They would blame as well, which is silly to me. Blame doesn't really help anybody. But I understand where they were getting some things, because sometimes I definitely ran things too hard. But, I at first I believed it was I worried that people viewed me as not being intelligent, not being able to train well, not being resilient. And as I got older, I realized, one, I don't care. Two, the people who know me don't care, because all they want to do is see me happy. If I get injured, it's all they care about is, me finding my way back to being happy, not the fact that I got injured and what did I do to get there, Right. But then I also started realizing injuries are part of the game. I'm pushing myself hard. I want to race well. And sometimes things, just build up too fast and you get hurt. Or sometimes there's no good reason at all. You didn't sleep well, or you got a calf cramp in the middle of the night, silly stuff happens. And, for me, it's been invaluable as a coach to to have the injuries I've had and to be able to understand like, hey, these things happen. Our goal is for them not to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, as soon as you feel something, speak up. But I also understand that sometimes the first time you feel something, it's a stress fracture. Like there are times when there was no forewarning and there was nothing we could do.
Yeah.
And just being able to comfort people and say like, hey, this honestly stinks real bad and mourn it a little bit, but know that like, it's not something you could have avoided, I don't think, because you're going for a goal and we had two choices, try or not. So.
Yes. I think that's such an important point to remember is that, when you're privileged enough to call yourself an athlete for long enough and you're trying to see what you're capable of, sometimes you find out where the limiter is, right? Like it's going to be part of the process. And so it's such a great point that you make about like, there's a very much a difference between taking ownership and understanding what's happening with your training in your body and taking responsibility and understanding that is very different than self-blame or having a coach blame you. Like,
right.
Not okay. Yeah. Right. Those are different things.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Just being able to be like, okay, this happened. How do we mitigate this risk in the future? And what do we do to get stronger if it's something that, you can work on, if it's something that can be worked on through PT or whatever it is. So, how do we take this and turn it into a strength moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, you mentioned that like you had early experiences with injury. I'm guessing some of those were like high school, college, earlier in your running, but I know the story of your first marathon, which qualified you for your first marathon trials, also has like an injury component to it. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit about what happened and how you wound up eventually achieving your goal, as well as kind of what it took to get there.
Yeah. So I have had chronic Achilles issues since high school. And in 2007, I wanted to try and qualify for the 2008 trials, which were held in Boston. So I was pretty excited to go for it, but it was my first marathon. I was also very scared because marathons are scary, at least to me. And so I was getting ready for the Columbus Marathon in Ohio, and I did I had a really great workout. And then the next day my Achilles was really bad. And, my coach was like, well, you shouldn't have run the workout so hard. And I was pretty upset about it. And then I didn't have him coach me anymore. And I got a new coach. And I had to work my butt off on the elliptical at the time. Lever didn't exist, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but which I use much more frequently now. But I use elliptical a lot, and I used elliptical back then to get healthy and to not lose the fitness I'd gained, because we were pretty close. It was like 3 weeks out. And so that was in October. And by the time I felt healthy and ready to go, it was about January. So I reached out to the Austin Marathon race director and was like, hey, can I get into your race? I think I'm healthy and ready to go. I had done I don't even know how many 3-hour-long ellipticals to try to mimic long runs. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I don't know. I hadn't run much of anything at that point, maybe 1:18 and a half or something. And he was like, you know what? All right, I'll give you a shot. And I was able to get there and run healthy and have a great race and hit the OTQ. But I learned a lot in that too, in that injury, that I'm not going to put up with someone telling me that everything's a fault or, dealing with my mental health in a negative way. Mm-hmm. From a coaching standpoint, that's not something I have to deal with anymore. I'm not in college or high school. And I also learned that there are different ways to get the outcome you want, and being adaptable is really important. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned that has, allowed my career to last so long.
Yeah. And that's not an easy course either. So there was a lot of things you overcame, and that's really incredible. But yeah, you mentioned your Achilles, and it sounds like they've literally been your Achilles heel through your career. Yeah. So I'd love to just talk a little bit more about how those injuries have started and progressed, and kind of have you made decisions about training and treatment? Because I know you wound up eventually having 2 different surgeries, if I'm not mistaken. So I know this might be hard to condense into one answer, but it's like
right.
Becki's Achilles story.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always had chronic tendonitis. My dad did too. So it's his fault. But, so yeah, I'm not sure, why I've always had tight calves. I'm sure I have really terrible dorsiflexion, like everything that a PT would ever say, like, great, how do I fix it? But we never really figured anything great out. And so the first one was 2018. I was training for CIM, and I got pneumonia and ran the first 16 miles and was like, dude, there's no way. Walked off the course with a friend, and she drove me home or drove me back or whatever. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll hop into Houston. And man, my Achilles was rough. Like, I got off the plane. I ended up not running Houston. I got off the plane in Jacksonville for USA 15K, and I couldn't run like 9-minute pace because I get no power out of my leg. And so we ended up booting it and trying all these things. Did an MRI. There was nothing there. Did another MRI, and sure enough, there was a tear. So there's a longitudinal tear. So we went in and had that repaired. And then I started back on the lever to try and get ready for the 2020 Olympic trials. And I got there, but I ran about 14 miles of it and told my family, like, just come to the finish. I'm done. I'm not fit enough to do this. I did the best I could. And they asked if my Achilles was hurting, and I said yes. But what I didn't say is that it was my other Achilles that was hurting and had been bothering me for a while. I was hoping I could like fake it, and sure enough, there was a longitudinal tear in that one too. So I had that one repaired, and then was able to successfully come back to racing using lever as my primary, honestly, for about 6 months as my primary form of running. So that's the kind of condensed version.
Yeah. And of course, we want to talk more about lever too, but I am curious kind of about the emotional journey behind all that too, and what it was like to cope with that, like continuing to try to come back and not really having the right answers, and then having the sort of double whammy of the other Achilles. Like, what were some of the like psychological components of going through all that?
Sure. So the first one, I kind of was in denial at first. I was like, no, I'm not going to need a surgery on this. Like, it's totally going to be fine. It'll go away. So I'll just get it like ultrasound every week, shockwave therapy. Like, there's got to be a way. I did not do shockwave because I know that can make tears worse. But in my mind, it was an option. It was a very real option. I thought, we can figure this out. And I really should have had the surgery done in February, and I didn't have it done until August because I didn't want to admit that I needed a repair. That seemed like, I'm not old. Like, I had this list of things in my head. So I really pushed it off thinking that it would heal itself. And when I realized it wouldn't, I kind of just quit running for the last few weeks. And I'd never really done that. I'd always cross-trained really hard through injuries. And that was the first time that I was really like, why am I forcing this? What am I doing? Like, what's my end game here? Like, I need to, honor the fact that my body is begging me to stop instead of trying to I'm not even sure what I was chasing. At least I had a big race on the calendar until the trials or anything. So I'm not even sure I have no idea what was in my head, in all honesty, but it was mentally pretty hard for me to deal with the first one. And then the second one, I think I was afraid to admit as a coach that I had been injured, and here I was again. I was afraid that I would push away athletes and make people think that I wasn't a good coach because here I was unable to stay healthy myself. And this is the first time I'd had an injury that turned into another injury. I'd never had it like a cycle happen before. It'd be something and then I'd be healthy. And then it, 2 years later, something else. So this was the first time that it strung together. And I think at first I was embarrassed until I realized, hey, I'm not the only first person to have an injury cycle. There are people who can learn from this. So I need to be a student of the sport currently in my situation and figure out how do I help someone else out of this, because it's a weird place to be in. And so that was a really big thing for me in 2020, which I had plenty of time on my hands to think about stuff,
Right.
To just learn about injury cycles and how they impact people. So for me, it was kind of, while I would never say like an uplifting experience to be super injured, it was a little bit of like, the first time I realized like I can really use this to impact other people long term.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a neat experience, hindsight.
It's so interesting, right? When you have that realization of like, oh, okay, wait a minute. If I become a student of myself, if I become a student of the injury cycle, I actually might be able to help the people that I coach, or like someone else might benefit from this. And it's interesting how sometimes then because I had that same experience where like, okay, I'm all in. Like if this means I can help someone else and like, let's figure this out. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's empowering.
Yeah.
It takes it from being something super negative to being like, hold up, like good can come of this. I just have to make it happen. So
has it changed how you coach your athletes, like going through these injury experiences?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely ask them like, hey, one of the main things that I work with my athletes that get injured is let's find the root cause. 99% of the time, your problem isn't your glute. You know, if your glute's hurting, it's not your hamstring. If your hamstring's hurting, I mean, it might be if it's acute, but a lot of the times it stems from something else. Like both of my Achilles tears, we believe, stemmed from my diastasis getting worse and worse and worse. And so I was relying on my back, which was tilting my pelvis, which was putting more tension on my Achilles. And because bilateral Achilles tendon tears are wild. Like that's not a thing. No. Like they don't happen. So like doctors are like, what the heck? I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm happy I could bring this to you.
Right.
So yeah, figuring out like, okay, so instead of just treating the area at PT or with ice, cryotherapy or whatever, let's get to the root cause. Why is this happening? What's going on? Let's, if you have the means, if you have the privilege to be able to see someone who can help you, let's utilize that and figure out where it's coming from. If you don't, I am going to find everything I can about this, figure out what type of foam rolling we should be trying until we figure out what's going on. Like there's got to be a way. And I do that a lot with athletes where, they're like, oh, I just don't know if I can afford an MRI right now. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a doctor, but I will walk you through the chain of command and we will figure out hopefully where something is in a way that we can work through what's going on here until you have an answer or a way to feel better.
That has to be tremendously empowering for your athletes too, because I think so often we get in that mindset of, well, either I'm totally healthy or I'm totally not, or I can't be doing anything, or I have to be getting the MRI. It's like, we don't see that there could be like a middle ground and other ways to like work on the issue or like get to the root of it without going 100% in on a medical journey that we might not be prepared for at the time.
Right. Yeah, no. And I mean, I grew up in pretty meek or meager means. And, the beginning of my career, prior to being married and everything, I worked in a running store. So I wasn't like raking in money or anything. Someone told me to get an MRI when I was 25. I would have been like, with what? Like sell my car? Like, no. So I totally understand that it's just not feasible for everyone. And, learning more and more about the body has helped me to help other people a lot and help them to learn more about their bodies and what's going on and then find stuff early, which helps them stay healthy in the long run.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your diastasis too, and I definitely want to talk about that as well as, your whole like kind of postpartum journey, because that's something that your kids were born in 2014, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, you got it.
I feel like we are only now talking about this more. Definitely weren't talking about it a lot then. So I really appreciate you talking about it now. Can you talk us through a little bit about how things went for you running wise during and after pregnancy, and then kind of how that continued to develop?
Yeah. So I didn't run much during pregnancy. I ran maybe the first, 15 weeks. I even raced, maybe like, 12 or 13 weeks pregnant. But once I have twins. So I was considered a high risk pregnancy, and my doctor asked me to quit running at 16 weeks. I didn't even make it to 16. Once I knew like it was off the table and I couldn't go 40 steps without peeing, I was like, I'm done. This is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I ellipticaled through my entire pregnancy, though, an hour or so a day, which was perfectly fine. I had no issues. And then had my kids via C-section at like 36 weeks one day. So we were in the NICU for just a couple days, 13 or so. 13 or 14. I think 13 days. And then I was really stupid. So I made a lot of mistakes postpartum that I try very hard to not let other people make. I was back at the track, I think at 3 weeks, like doing workouts. I just put a belly band on, like it'd be fine, right? And then I raced a half marathon, like 11 weeks postpartum, and just kind of tried to jump right back into training. Like my body will bounce right back. And, my diastasis wasn't terrible to begin with. And I did do PT work to help correct it after I broke my sacrum. So once I broke my sacrum, I was like, hey, I might need help, so I'm just like, get help now. Let's not go there. And also slow and like you've got to be slow coming back. You have no sleep, a new body, and you can't compare postpartum to never having been pregnant. And, really showing people like, hey, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go down that path. It was a very long road. And then it was I think I had to do 16 weeks off to repair that sacral stress fracture. And then I was able to come back slowly and intelligently and do things the way I should have done them the first time. And would have saved myself a lot of frustration and time. Yeah, too. So, it was an interesting journey. And then it was probably about, my kids were about 6 when my diastasis started separating again. And it didn't matter how much PT I did. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Nothing was closing it back up. It just continued to widen. I also was not working out hard and stuff. Like I didn't give it up to see if that would fix it, but the things I was doing, I was unable to fix it. And, I ended up having like a ton of back pain, a ton of sciatica issues because like I couldn't even walk without pain because, my back was taking over for what my abs could no longer do because the separation was, like 8 centimeters and it just wasn't doing, they weren't working right. So my body just decided, hey, we're not going to use those anymore. We'll refer to your back instead. And so then I ended up with a ton of more issues and had a full tummy tuck, which I didn't mind losing the twin skin, but it was a big surgery, and having my diastasis fully brought back together surgically. So, and then it was a big journey coming out of that too, because it's another 6 months till you're really feeling normal running again. And I took 10 weeks off after, I think, before I did any, even like 1 minute on, 1 minute walk, jogging, like sort of thing.
Was that your longest break or? Maybe during your pregnancy.
Yeah, during my pregnancy was like a full 6 months of being on the elliptical. So, but that was 10 weeks of doing nothing. So that was definitely different. I walk, right? But like normal human walk, not like power walk or anything. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned some things that you tell people now, like when you connect with or coach postpartum runners now, that you would tell them to do differently. Like are there other big pieces of advice that you give them about kind of that period and that process?
Yeah. So sleep is our body's only way to heal, and you're not getting it more than likely. Maybe you are. I hope you have an au pair. Good for you. But most people aren't getting the sleep that they're used to, or the sleep that their body needs to actually be training. So when I'm working with a postpartum person, I want them to remember everything's adjustable. Every day is adjustable. If you haven't slept for 2 days, no, you should not go do your longest run yet. Like we should revamp things. We should always be in communication and just working to kind of ebb and flow with things. So I feel like the best thing you can do for yourself postpartum is absolutely have an adaptable mind. It's going to be hard, but everything's changed. So just know that getting where you want to be is going to be a little different than you probably expected.
And then when you did get to the point, so again, I know it was like years in the making and several other injuries, but talk about the decision to have that surgery with the diastasis and then like what kind of the emotional impact of that in the aftermath too.
Yeah. So in 2020, I actually had a consult because I was just sick of the pouch. Like I had this like belly that was a little different than I wanted. So I had a consult, but I couldn't pull the trigger, which wouldn't have worked out anyway because everything got shut down. So whatever. And then after my second Achilles repair would have been the end of 2020, that's when I was really like, maybe I should do it. I don't know. And then once my back flared up, I was just like, literally one day I just called and was like, I want to have another consult and I want to get this done. Like it was really like, kind of, my husband and I had talked about it numerous times, but it was kind of flippant. Like he was on a work trip and I just called him and was like, hey, I'm scheduled for surgery. He was like, what? And I was like, yep, we're done. Like I can't do this anymore. I have been walking and trying to run for so long and I'm in so much pain and this is stupid. And I'd seen a doctor and a friend of mine, a chiropractor, who was like, just so you know, like the root problem of this is your abs. Like that diastasis is getting worse every time I see you. And I was like, cool. So I was like, screw it, I'm just doing it. So called on my drive home from his office and got myself a consult to get things scheduled. And I was really excited. I was nervous too. I was excited because it's something I'd wanted to do for me at any rate for a long time because I was unhappy with my stomach, which is, I understand, silly, but still it was what it was. And knowing that I would have a functional body again was really exciting. And then of course I got scared. Like, what if something goes wrong? What if, like surgery is a very scary thing. And, not many people would elect to want to have a surgery if they absolutely don't have to. So I did get a little scared and, I had a huge hematoma. So like my whole stomach swelled up and they had to redo it again the next day because it was bleeding inside.
Yeah.
And like I passed out. It was kind of no one's fault. I wasn't upset. I was just like, of course, but you always feel like that when something happens and you forget the good things. So it went fine. And then it was good after that. I remember though, right before the surgery from a mental standpoint, I like looked at my, stretch marks and I have this little like strawberry that I got while I was pregnant. And I was like, oh, what if they take that? Like, I was like kind of sad. Like I was, I'm a little, the strawberry is still there. So that's good. But I was like, oh man, like what if, like, it's kind of sad. And then afterwards, I really struggled with body image because I think I thought it would just like fix it and it would be like magical. But it turns out if you have like, I don't think I have like crazy bad body image, but like, I definitely have some negative things to say to myself. And I think that I was really shocked that I was still going to have to work on it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% thrilled I did it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But at the same time, I was not prepared to not just like walk out of that surgery like, I look wonderful.
Yeah. And it's confusing, right? Like when you have that expectation and then you're like, wait a minute, I don't get it. Like what's happening?
Like you're like the least grateful person on earth. Like nothing can make me happy.
But I think so many of us go through that. Like there, at some point, whatever the cause, like we realize, oh, wait, what my body looks like and how I feel about my body, those are not like 100% correlated. Like you said, the body image piece is like a whole separate process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if that's something that you have to work on, like you always probably will have to work on it.
So it is. And then, the coming back from it, just being sedentary for so long and feeling, weird because you're not working out and you're not doing the things you're used to. That was a little challenging too. And then getting back to working out, I was very surprised. And this may be my age. I'm about to be 42 this summer. So man, it was harder than I thought it was going to be.
Mm,
I like would run like 2 days in a row and I would be exhausted. I'd never had that happen before. So that was and it wasn't like iron or ferritin, levels or anything. I had that kind of stuff checked to make sure it wasn't, but it was just coming back maybe at my age or maybe after a major surgery. I don't know what it was, but it definitely took a lot more out of me than I had anticipated as well. So that was a little different than other injuries I'd had in the past because that mentally really messed with me. Like, oh my gosh, did I ruin myself? Well, at that point I was like, I'm not hurt. I'm just like, destroyed. Like, and I don't know why. I didn't do anything. Like, I ran 4 miles. That shouldn't make me this tired. And so that was mentally really hard to get through. And I actually jogged for most of last year just because my legs were so weak from sitting so much and not doing anything that it took that long to rebuild the muscle and be back to a point where I could run longer than 3 or 4 minutes without feeling like my calves are really tight or I just feel exhausted. It's a very weird comeback.
Yeah. Yeah. That can be really confusing for athletes too, especially like if you've had other injuries in your past and you're used to that experience and you know what it's typically been like for you coming back from that when you have an injury where it's not playing out the way that you're expecting, it's very much like sends your mind into a tailspin a little bit of like, wait a minute, I don't understand. Like, this isn't how it's supposed to go. And so, I mean, it comes back to your point about like, with postpartum, like working with your postpartum athletes where it's like, you really have to both, as you get injured, as we age, it'll, be adaptable to like, what is my body telling me? And it's hard because as athletes, we're very much trained to tune out your body's signals and push through. And now your body's asking you to like, guess what? You can't do that anymore. You have to, it's a hard shift. The lesson of how do I need to honor my body versus just doing what my mind wants. Those are two different things. And
are two different things.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, I had success last fall, even doing the run walk because I wasn't, I ran a couple races just because I was like, I want to race again. So I ran the Akron half and the Detroit half, and I was just hoping to run about 90 minutes. And I ran like an hour, 30 minutes and 8 seconds, I think, at Akron, and then like 1:27 at Detroit. And I did no workouts. All I did was run 2.5 minutes, walk 30 seconds for like, for whatever duration I was doing, I think up to about 8 miles or so. And then was like, I'll just try it, And one of the really cool things there was I got real excited about being able to eventually train again. And like, look, I can still do it even when I think I can't. Because I'd gotten to the point where I was like, maybe I'll never race again. And I was like, screw this, I'm racing then. I'm going to race whether I should or shouldn't. And I mean, race is a strong word sometimes, but you know what I mean? I'm going to go be part of a race and I'm going to see what the best I've got to give today is. And that for me was really fun. And it really helped me as a coach to be able to look at my athletes and remind them like, it doesn't have to be about a PR. Doesn't have to be about the best day you wanted, but it can be, if you're healthy, about the best day you have that day.
Yeah.
And that can be celebrated. That can be fun, even if it isn't the outcome that you would have ideally written in your book.
Well, and I bet there was something very like freeing about that for you too, because it sounds like part of what you was like so much on your mind was like, am I ever going to be able to do this again? Period. Not just like, is this going to be hard for a while, but like, am I ever? Right. So to like open that door and be like, no, regardless of what happens, and even if whether I do or whether I don't, I can still enjoy this and have fun with it and be a part of it. Like that had to be very like freeing to then enable you to like actually move forward. And then you have gotten back before.
It definitely took away a lot of fear that I had that I don't even know that I consciously realized I had.
Yeah.
But like, I know I was holding back and my husband's like, why are you not running Akron? Like, I know you want to run it. You're signed up and you're saying you're not going to go. You're going to regret that. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to run fast or whatever. Like I was being like foo-foo about it. And he was like, who cares? And I was like, I don't know why I care. Like, I don't know either. Like, I don't care. I just want to do the best I can do. And I know that, but it was hard for me until I did it. It was hard for me to fully embrace it and accept that like, this actually is fun, even if I'm doing it differently than I've ever done it before.
Athletes, we know you're always looking for new ways to get back to training and to prevent the next injury. We want to introduce you to a great new tool from our sponsor for this season, Lever Movement. The Lever system is an innovative way to reduce your body weight while exercising on a treadmill, which means less impact on your joints. This is perfect for coming back from an injury, or if you're healthy now, to push your limits without fear holding you back. Whether you're returning to running, looking to increase your running volume, or wanting to add some serious speed work to your routine, Lever has got you covered.
And what's even better? The Lever system is incredibly portable. It sets up on your home treadmill or at your local gym in under 2 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. Less than 2 minutes and you are ready to go. You may have seen elite athletes like Eilish McColgan and Kara Goucher using it. And now we've got an exclusive deal for you here at the Injured Athletes Club. Use the discount code TIAC20 to get 20% off your purchase. Trust me, your joints, Achilles, and sore muscles will thank you, and so will your future self.
Check out Lever today and take your training to the next level. Also, give them a follow on Instagram at Lever Movement and learn more about their products and their connection to the running community.
What should I eat to fuel my healing and recovery process? How can I work my way through our mess of a medical system? And what's the best way to ward off re-injury, especially as I age? We know these are the questions on your mind because you ask them every day in the Injured Athletes Club Facebook support group. And that's why we've put together webinars with panels of top-notch experts to answer them. Seriously, we are so lucky that so many physicians, physical therapists, coaches, dietitians, sports psychologists, and more have joined us to speak directly to your concerns. We've hosted webinars on nutrition, navigating the medical system, the aging athlete, and my favorite title is the last one we did, Why Do I Keep Getting Injured? If you missed any of these live, don't worry, we have a special deal for you on the recordings. You can go to our Buy Me a Coffee page at buymeacoffee.com/rebound. And don't worry, we'll link to that in the show notes. There, you'll be able to get any single webinar recording for $10, or you can buy all 4 for $25. That's about 6 hours of top-notch educational content, especially for you, the injured athlete, at one low price. And best of all, when you download them, you're supporting our work for injured athletes so we can keep doing this show and more webinars in the future. Remember, that's buymeacoffee.com/rebound. Or you can get there by heading to our website, injuredathletesclub.com, and clicking on the More Resources tab. And I was curious too, I mean, as a coach and just as someone who's kind of enmeshed in the running community, like as you're going through all these things, you're seeing other people have more successful days and more people being out there. How was that emotional component of all of this for you? And how has that changed over time too?
Yeah. When I was younger, it broke me. Like when I would see someone, do something that I wanted, like I would be like, this is, what do I have to do? How can I get there? How many elliptical workouts can I do today to get ready to be the best I can be, another time. And then I don't really know when the shift happened. I've always been the sort of competitor. I'll praise God for this one because I don't know, I know many people get angry, like legitimately mad at the person who beats them or something. For me, it's always been the mindset of like, I don't know where it came from, but I've always just thought, well, if they beat me, I either need to work harder or kudos to them, right? Like I have 2 options here, but not getting mad at them doesn't make it better. So I've always had there are times I'm like, I'm jealous, but I've never been unhappy, like for someone to do well, especially like my friends and people I know, in the running community around here. And, there are times when it's like, man, I wish I could be doing that. But I've always just been really excited for them to do it too. So I think that's just like kind of wouldn't it be a hard thing to teach someone if they didn't feel that way? But it's always been like, I'm always stoked. I mean, that might be the coach in me too, just like stoked to see someone achieve their goals, even if mine aren't really right now.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, and two, I think once you go through it a few times and realize, okay, my time will come back. That helps too, right?
Yeah. I've had a ton of success, and I've had, I've done a lot of things that I don't know that I necessarily believed I could do either. So when I look back on it, there's just like a point where I'm like, if I could never do it, if I can never do it, something like that again, like I'm really thankful I was able to sort of mindset, which I couldn't have had when I was younger. But now I'm able to look back on it and be like, if I never run X time again, or whatever, as long as I can still be out here being part of it, I can be happy with it.
Well, of course, we want to make sure we talk about Lever because that is what brought us together. And you've mentioned it a few times as being an important tool. And they're our exclusive sponsor for this season of the show. So how has the Lever system been a part of your rehab and training? And how did you first find out about it?
Yeah. So I saw Lever on social media, and I think it was like Dathan Ritzenhein's group up in Michigan had it. I think they were in Michigan at the time. I don't know if they're in Colorado yet, but it doesn't really matter. And maybe they're in Colorado then. It makes sense. But so saw the Lever, and I was like, man, this could work really well. I asked my husband what he thought, and he, was like, yeah, another recovery tool. That's what you need. And I was like, no, but seriously, I think I might need this one. And I had like commented on a post or something, and the next day had spoke with Brad, who is an owner at Lever, and was able to get a Lever and start using it. And I used it. I was coming back from my first Achilles surgery, and it was amazing because I could just, in the comfort of my own home. One of the things that AlterGs are wonderful. They're great. But being on an AlterG makes me feel like I have to pee the whole time. Is the pressure, and it drives me bonkers. And this doesn't do that. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Not only that, if it did, I'm in my house instead of like a PT office every 10 minutes to go pee. So I can handle that. And it doesn't do that, but it allowed me to like start training again when I wouldn't have been able to without it. I could have done elliptical maybe, but even then I don't know that I would have been ready for it quite the way. I certainly wouldn't have been able to train the way I was to come back. And because I was trying to do like a portion on the Lever after a portion outside. And so it was a lot of back and forth. And it was really, really helpful in that. I feel like I'm not explaining it very well. Let me think here. So the way I would use it is I would start at like 70% body weight. So I would take a bunch of body weight off. And once I was completely with my Achilles was completely comfortable, I would increase it to 75. Once that was completely comfortable, I would start at like 15 minutes at 80, and then 20, 30, 45. That's comfortable. And then I was able to eventually get outside. Once I was outside, it wasn't just like, boom, all my mileage now outside because I knew I'd get hurt again. So that's when I would do the back and forth between the Lever and be able to actually start doing workouts, and because I could do some speed on the Lever, and then I could do my easy runs outside. So it was just this very gradual process that allowed me to utilize the Lever to get back. And then once I was fully healthy, use the Lever to get some more speed work in that I otherwise couldn't do. Or I use it a lot now just for my secondary runs. What I would have done 5 years ago outside for the second run, I now just do on the Lever so that I have mitigated risk of injury.
Most of our listeners will probably know this, but the AlterG is the anti-gravity treadmill that is usually too expensive for you to have at home. It's like usually at the physical therapist's office, and you have to zip yourself into to like these very tight shorts, which I don't know that I've had the experience of having to pee on it, but I can understand how that would happen. And the Lever, as people will definitely know because they've heard the ads that we've been running all season, you can put it on your home treadmill, you can take it to the gym. It's like a lot more portable and adaptable so that you can do things like you're describing, combine workouts or, shift body weight, probably even within the same workout if you really wanted to. So, yeah. So that's interesting that you use it when you're healthy now too. Right. So how often do you recommend it for athletes that you're coaching, and in what circumstances?
Yeah. I mean, if you're an injury prone person, you can take 20% of your volume and shift it to the lever. And oftentimes you'll actually see an increase in what you can do because you're moving a little faster, because you can go a little faster, but are taking off the weight. So your legs feel a little more fresh. They feel like a little more poppy at that cadence. Mm-hmm. And it goes a long way just to take some of the pounding off of your body. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people I know Brad and I have talked about it, see a lot of success with moving about 20% of their training to the lever.
Right. It's almost like the neuromuscular connection working too, right? Like versus, yeah.
That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there are other tools, like whether it's physical or on the mental side, that have also been like supportive of you as you've gone through some of these injuries and setbacks. Like I know you've talked before about journaling daily. Like, is that something that you still do? And is that something that you would do when you're injured too? Or are there other things like that have helped you as you have worked through these recovery periods?
Yeah. I mean, reading a lot helps. I feel like there are so many great things out there, and they're not even all running related, just to work on your mindset and work on gratitude goes a long way. I did a gratitude journal for a really, really long time, and I quit because I forgot or something. Mm-hmm. I just started picking it back up because I was like, I can see some area for me to work on, not being a little brat all the time sometimes. So I was like, all right, I got an idea, and get back to that because it does help. But that, and then just having, therapy helps too. If you have the means to do it, talking to someone that, can work with you and deal with the mental stress of not having the outlet when you're not able to run. It can really, for me, it's gone a long way to be able to, use those tools, stay calm, to remind myself this is temporary, that, working through these things can be an opportunity. Sure, it's a setback and it's in a regard, but in other regards, it can absolutely be a way to help other people, a way to get stronger, a way to work on your mental game. Mm-hmm. So there are just a lot of opportunities involved in it. And I think that I learned that through therapy and talking to other people. And then one of my favorite things to tell people to do, this is terrible. It seems terrible, I promise. It's not terrible. It's lovely. But it seems terrible if you're hurt and I'm asking you to go do this. Go to a race, go cheer at a race. Yeah. It's the last thing you want to do, but I guarantee you leave happier.
Isn't that funny? We hear that all the time, like people who are really hesitant to do it and they don't want to do it. I think it's so important to recognize, like, it's okay for you to feel those feelings and still go, because every time someone shares a story about that, they're always glad that they went. Like almost all, like I really honestly can't.
It's also okay to be sad and pumped at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
You can be both.
Yes, you can.
You can have way more emotions than two, even.
That's right.
So true.
But yeah, I think it goes a long way to stay connected in the running community. Stay part of it, even though it feels a little icky sometimes. It's okay to deal with the icky.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, and I think that is another thing too, like you were talking about, even your joy in racing at different paces, or I've heard you talk before about even enjoying your Olympic trials experience in 2020, even though you didn't finish the race. Some of those things that we maybe sometime in the past we could think of as being the worst possible outcome actually do end up being something that we, even though if we do have some sad feelings, we also have some really positive feelings about too. So overall, Becki, how would you say that your experiences with injury and similar circumstances have changed you or shaped you as an athlete and as a person?
I think I looked at that. I had a little cheat sheet to start with, and I looked at this and I was like, geez. But, I think learning to roll with the punches transcends sport, right? Mm-hmm. I've got 2 kids. I got to roll with a lot of punches. Someone out there's got 6 who's listening to this. I don't even understand how you do it, but there's so many punches to roll with. That's life. I know everyone compares running to life, and I'm being a cliche right now, but there's so many things that the toolbox we use to be a good athlete can help us be a good person. And it can help us grow in so many aspects of our life and our jobs and our relationships. It can teach us that, like maybe my husband and I are ticked at each other and things aren't going great, but that doesn't mean we can't work on things, like it's, or my kids being a preteen and and I love her. So like, what do I do with that? Well, I actually do have a toolbox of how to deal with frustrating moments in my head. And I've done it a million times in a race. And I've done it a million times on the track and a million times when a dog that I don't know runs up to me.
Right.
I can handle this moment. I don't always handle it with grace. I assure you of that. But then, I can look at things and I it gives you a better perspective. Because you learn so much through the injuries, you learn so much through the hard times that just it carries over, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, would you say that it's helped you become a better, stronger athlete too?
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm so much more chill. Mm-hmm. Like I used to get so nervous before races. I cried. Like I'll still cry on the start line, but that's like a gratitude cry because I just can't believe I get to do it. But I'm a very emotional person. So, but yeah, I mean, there are times when I cried just out of sheer fear of like, what if I can't do something? And now I realize that's absolutely ridiculous. And I race better because guess what? Who cares if my last split was slow? Mm-hmm. I don't even care anymore, which is great.
Yeah.
Like, injuries, have taught me like, hey, you chill out. Guess what? Think you actually run better. Yep. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you hold things so tight yep. that it absolutely stifles your ability to even live up to your own potential.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, along those lines, then, we talked at the beginning that you just won a half marathon a couple weeks ago. What did it feel like to have that experience after all you've been through the past few years?
Yeah, I definitely forgot how awesome it feels for sure. I mean, if you ever see any pictures from the race, I think I'm smiling most of the race. It was awesome to be out there again. And I didn't really know I was leading because there was a quarter marathon as well. And until about mile 4 or so. And someone, a lead cyclist rode up next to me and I was like, I don't think I'm leading. There are 3 women. And he was like, no, they're all in the quarter. I already checked. And I was like, oh. So that was a pretty exciting moment. I was like, holy crap, I might win a race today. Like it'd been a really long time. And my kids and my husband were there too. So that made it extra special to get to high five them and see them out on the course and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was unexpected and I was really stoked.
That's awesome.
And what's next on the horizon? What are you working towards now?
Yeah, I'll run a 10K here in Columbus because it's here and I like supporting the Columbus running company that puts it on. But my big goals for the year are the Akron Marathon Series. Akron's home. That's where I went to college. My family lives up in that area. So it's about 2.5 hours from where I live now, but it's my favorite series. So there's an 8K at the end of June. There's a 10K and a half. I'll do the half in mid-August. And then the full marathon, there's also a half and a relay, but I'll do the full marathon there on September 27th. And my hope is, I don't care. I want to win, obviously, but like my hope is to break the Masters record, which is 247 and change. So try and get in under 247 shape and see what the day holds.
Fantastic. Well, Becki, we're so grateful for everything you've shared. I know you have also shared some great advice along the way, but is there anything else, if you were thinking about like key pieces of advice to give injured athletes that either we haven't talked about or that you'd want to reemphasize? Is there anything else you'd want to say?
Just remember, if you're hurt right now, like it's okay to be bummed, but one day you'll look back and you'll forget how sad you were because you'll be doing something that makes you happy again. It's not forever.
I love that, Becki. Well, thank you so, so much. Where can people find you and keep tabs on you if they also want to see what you're up to the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, spellmancoaching.com is my coaching website. And then I'm on Facebook, Becki Spellman. It's Becki with an I. First grade me had another Becki in my class. So we live with that now. And also Becki Spell on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becki. We really appreciate you being here and sharing all this with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Becki for joining us. And thank you to our sponsor, Lever Movement, for introducing us to Becki and for making the show possible this season. We're also grateful to Jeremy Nussel for editing this and every single episode of the show. And of course, we are exceedingly grateful to you, our listeners and club members. You can listen to the Injured Athletes Club podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts. And if you like the show, we would really appreciate a rating and a review, or just share it with another injured athlete who might benefit from these stories. Between episodes, you can join our Facebook group, which is also called the Injured Athletes Club. There you'll find advice and support from other people who just get it, along with announcements about other events like the Athlete Summit that we mentioned in the intro. You can get links to all of these things on our website, injuredathletesclub.com. Thanks so much, and we'll see you there.